Oh. Hello. Welcome to
Hello.
another episode of Planet Real Time. I need to just move this just a little bit over here. Actually, over here. My name is Winslow Porter, and along with Todd Bryant and John Fan, we're able to deliver a show about real time, in real time, for real. And we're very, very excited, as you might have seen. We have a special guest today. Once I bring the TV in, you'll see who it is. And also, I just need to move this over here just a little bit so that I'm facing you guys properly. Here we go. Okay. And so yeah, I think also there's people are curious, what is Planet Real Time, and that's a very good question. Really, we want to discuss the many different applications that real time has, and this is not just about video games, but it's also different forms of entertainment, television, movies, all different ways in which we can display data, information, and eventually it'll be working its way into sort of every facet of our lives. Um, so I think it's interesting for us to analyze sort of where we are now, or where we came from when it came to early beginnings of real time graphics computing. Where we are now, sort of what our thoughts are about it, and how can it improve our lives. But also, sometimes it can also distract us. So I think it's important for us to make sure we are concentrating on what's most important. And so, with that being said, I'd like to introduce our guest, who really is the mentor of many, I should say, the friend of the universe. Really, we're very lucky. In his busy schedule, we're able to beam him in to Planet Real Time, and once we once we're able to bring him in, well, first I'm going to do just a little bit of an intro, so you can get a better understanding of who Mike Woods is as a human being, really. And so with that, here we go. Okay, so yeah, this is our third episode too. Many thanks to Matt Rader, to James Hoskin, to Militza Zetz for being our previous guests. Really means the world to us. Every episode we try to up our ante. You'll see what we're doing new this episode. Really excited to show you. And also, this wouldn't be made possible. We have to thank our sponsors for this, which Unreal for being able to give the grant to be able to make Planet Real Time possible. The GPU in our computer, thanks to NVIDIA, and also the headphones that are allowing us to hear what the heck is going on. So many thanks for that. And with this too, we want people to get a better understanding of what real-time graphics are. So we're gonna actually open up, show what's under the hood a little bit. That's super important to not just see this. There's gonna be a lot of fun, definitely some gaffes. It'll be a madcap comedy romp, as you might have heard from different '80s trailers for your favorite romantic comedy. Um, and we'll see how everything goes. But with every episode, we try to sort of test ourselves, push the limits of what we're doing, and each episode is only we're only putting in, or there's just three of us working on it. So we'd also love to hear any feedback you have about thoughts you'd like to do for future episodes, future guests, things we'd like to talk about. So we're all ears here on Planet Real Time, and we've got a pretty good Wi-Fi signal. It takes a little bit longer to get information from Earth, but that's just how things are sometimes. Everyone's familiar with Wi-Fi, having to zoom in here and there, but we're actually able to bring Mike Woods in through an avatar. So yeah, we're very excited. But speaking of which, so with Mike, make sure that everything is boom. Hello, Mike. There he is, right there. What a handsome devil! Look at him. That's a great headshot. Um,
I'm
and
very happy.
and I think that was back when that was taken for Mike's time at Framestore. So I actually first met Mike during a Framestore job. That was for ultimately the client was for Merrill shoes, and I think it's also important to know that in Planet Real Time, just because of that's how I was scanned, I'm always wearing Merrill shoes. The Merrill shoes, in fact, from the same project that we worked on, which was for a shoe called the Capra. But I was at a company called MKG working with Hill Holiday to be able to make a virtual reality experience come to life. This right here is the Capra, which is a goat from the Dolomites. And as you can see, this rather haunting sculpture, if you will, is made of entirely Capra shoes, both different colors. You can see it on the left and the right. And as you'll see also when I do my pan out, actually you can see my shoes right there. There are the Capras. I don't think they make them anymore, but I know they're going to be selling off the shelf as soon as this goes live. So maybe you can get them on eBay or on StockX. Yeah. I don't know how many sizes they'll have left, but you can probably actually buy mine if you really want. I'm a 9. But with that being said, what was unique about this project, and we'll also watch a video, was that this is the first time that there was a commercial application of free roaming 6 DoF, 6 degrees of freedom, virtual reality, an interactive virtual reality, cinematic virtual reality experience where the user could actually walk around. The participant had a sense of agency and wasn't just fixed to one point. And that sounds like a crazy notion. That doesn't sound like that big of a deal. But back in 2015, that was total insano. And we were pitching this actually back in 2014. So you can only imagine then. VR years are like dog years, but even crazier. The technology just moves so fast. So with that being said, here, I think one thing I don't even think Mike has seen these photos before. The one thing I think that's notable about Mike is that not only is he an amazing, creative, but we learned so much from him, Milica and I, when we were working on our projects and also when I was working for MKG, that it's important to be part of every step of the process. I think a lot of creative directors that I've worked with generally come up with an idea and then they sort of ship it off and don't follow it up. But a unique thing about Mike was that he was there to put on the headset for almost every single person to ensure from the beginning to the end that person was onboarded to the experience. As you can see, making sure that everything fit right and that helmet served a dual purpose, not just to protect them, to simulate, actually 3 purposes, to simulate them being in the Dolomites, 2, so they wouldn't hit their own head on the rock wall, and then 3, so that they could actually be tracked in 3D space using the Vicon system. And I think, Mike, it would also be great to talk about, how far things have come since, 2015 when it comes to technology too. The amount of how much you'd have to spend in order to get the system to work. So here's also Mike, making sure that they were, after they crossed the rock bridge, and they got disoriented because there'd be a landslide, or the footbridge rather. But just see the look on Mike's face. He's enjoying it. He's got like childlike wonder with every person that went through. And there's Christine as well, making sure. But he was there holding all those cables. This is also the Oculus Rift DK2 too. So, this is before they did obviously native tracking. But I don't know too many other people who would bother to be not only the creative director, but also the docent. And that really inspired us, and that really helped, form how we thought about projects. And I think a lot of other people too, to make sure that we were there from, the beginning to the end, and to really make people feel comfortable inside the experience. Because oftentimes this is very, a very new and confusing, or it can be overwhelming, the technology. And, every time people just felt so comfortable. This is after somebody hiked the summit of this mountain in the Dolomites, and you can just see the expression on their face, just how comfortable they were when they saw the midnight or the starry sky pass over them after they reached the summit, as wind is blowing in their face. But yeah, I just wanted to mention, Mike, that was very inspiring, not just for me, but for many people. And then Mike also continues to inspire people at the New Museum Incubator, so that was the first project I worked on with Mike, but then he continued to help us with our projects Giant and Tree here at New Inc. And just last week, he actually came for a field trip with a very talented artist named Jonah King, and he's continuing to mentor. So if you can, and I know there's probably a long list, but definitely try to get on the wait list to be, on as one of Mike's mentees. It's pretty amazing experience. And so here's also, he doesn't just stop at that. Mike, I'd also like you just to take in the logo on your shirt that will be playing out as the episode progresses. It's and I, as you can see here, Christmas came early this year, and that was Mike giving us a Vive headset. And this was back before really anybody had them. As you can see, the look on our face. This was right before Christmas. This is before we were showing Giant. This was back when it was still the dev kit. This was the, back when it looked like it was Borg technology. It was like, all the circuit boards were still being shown. But, the kindness of Mike, that meant so much to us. And we continue to hope that we can pay that forward. But that was such a mind-bending, mind-expanding moment, I should say, for something that, now people have the Quest. It's untethered. It's $300. But these were back when, they were basically impossible to get. And I remember also reading the comments, or it says 2 comments. Dan Moore said, I want one. Like, because everyone at the time, this was like the hottest tech. So, yes, Mike, without, embarrassing you too much, that just means the world to us. You can definitely, we can hear you laughing too. Even though you haven't been beamed into Planet Real Time, you're definitely with us in spirit. So with that, again, without further ado, we'd like to bring in our I don't want to say superstar mega creator Mike Woods, but I already said it. So here's Mike, and his head is his side.
I think my neck might be a bit broken. I can see Todd running. Shall I walk in like you're Jimmy Fallon?
Oh, so what you could do is actually just turn your chair. So Mike is in a full mocap suit. Just in the meantime. Or the other way, Mike. Perfect.
Todd's going to re-break my neck, but so I'm going to walk in like I'm.
Oh yeah, perfect. That would be best.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah. So.
Okay. So
and before you come back on stage, we're just going to reset the TVs.
Why don't we do a practice? Do a Fallon and welcome me onto stage.
So tonight our special guest is superstar creator Mike Woods. And hold on, actually we've got a crowd simulation.
Thank you. Just wave to everybody. Little dance.
Oh, that's perfect. And
sorry about the broken neck, Jimmy. Nothing I can do about
that. Well, it's all good. We've got a chiropractor named Todd who's about to come and fix everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right for now, but I imagine after 10 minutes that might start to ache a little bit.
That's fine. Okay, so we're gonna bring a doctor in here. So apologies, everyone. This will take about 20 seconds, and maybe you have because they can still hear your audio. Maybe you have a humorous anecdote that you'd like to share. I mean, just not to put you on the spot or anything. I mean, yeah, you flew in all the way from Earth. I bet your arms are tired. Oh, and we're just, yep, Todd's bringing out the...
Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, that's better.
Okay, much better. And then for mine too, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, I felt a little crook in my neck as well. Because we overcompensated previous, just a little teeny. Okay. Can you see what we're doing, Mike?
I can't hear you very well. Can you turn me up?
Can you see what we're doing?
I'll turn yourself up.
And we should be back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go a little bit louder.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, fantastic. So now...
Okay.
Too much. We're going to just do it one more time. Just
I look really forlorn now.
Just so everyone knows, yeah, this is the first time we're experimenting here with we've done most of mocap, but real time.
That looks good.
Yeah, Mike, I was just saying. Yeah. And maybe we can do this.
Okay, how about that?
Perfect. Okay. And I'm gonna bring the. There you go. Yeah, your arms must be tired. I was saying from flying in all the way from Earth.
Feels good. Feels good.
There we go.
Oh yeah, look, there we go. Wide.
Oh, perfect. It's a proper welcome.
Thanks for having me, Winslow. Thanks for that intro. You make me sound like a total megalomaniac turning up at all my own events and helping people in and out of headsets.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, and you continue to do, inspiring work, giving back to the community. And so you know how much this TV cost, the one that you have on your head, right? Yeah, we had to get that.
I'm sure it's very expensive.
Yeah. It's the BAPE. It's a 2020 BAPE edition television. I don't know if you can.
Beautiful.
You can see it in more detail. There we go. We can do a little. Oh, fantastic. So, with that being said, Mike, it would be great, I think to get people to a better understanding of, sort of where you came from, maybe if you wouldn't mind talking about, how you got your start in this business.
Yes. Well, I did a film degree, so I went to college and got a degree in film. And then from that point, decided I wanted to be an editor, and then got into learning how to edit, and then could only really do that in England by moving up to London. So I moved up to London, got in ground level at a post-production facility in like 1995, perhaps,
Oh, wow.
I think, and as a 20-year-old, and then just literally worked as a runner and worked my way up, and found myself by accident in a music department, which was pretty much editing and dubbing pop videos all day. And then from that point realized that me and a friend who I just made there actually had access to the entire Universal Music, Sony Music, Polydor and Polygram archives, which then on the night shift, as we were teaching ourselves to edit, provided us with a lot of fun to be making sort of strange mashup related things, which we did sort of naughtily without any of them really knowing we were doing it. And then arrived an MPEG-1 encoder into the company, and we were being told proudly by a guy on the 6th floor that this was the only MPEG encoder in England. And it was bigger than your mocap stage, and nobody really knew how to use it except for this one guy. And then he allowed us to take our video clips off Betamax onto this new digital format that could play on the internet. And we started putting things online when it was very expensive to do that. And then midway through that, probably in like 1999, two things happened. One, I moved from an edit house to a company called Framestore, and I had no idea really what Framestore was, other than I met someone at a party that said it was an amazing place and you should definitely come work here, and fumbled my way into an interview, not really knowing what to expect. Got the job, turned up at Framestore knowing nothing about visual effects, but obviously Framestore then, I think I was employee number 86 or something.
Oh, wow.
And it was very small then, and then it just got progressively more massive over the next 15 years I spent there. But in the early days, I was just kind of backroom technician person. And then, but on my sort of alter ego outside of work was still making all these strange mashup videos and uploading them to the internet. And this is 5 years before YouTube even existed. So we were running up massive debts to providers and hosting companies, but starting to get quite notorious in early video mashup world, until I had a strange moment where we managed to somehow get represented by a production company by making strange mashup videos. And then the production company's clients decided they wanted to use Framestore for their post-production. So I had this very strange day where I was running in and out of a suite as a director, and then supporting my own suite as the edit technician behind it. And that was when my boss sort of worked out what was going on, and I had to sort of come clean, thinking I was going to be in trouble for doing sort of after hours moonlighting. And he was like, no, that's actually amazing that you're doing that. Why don't you move away from the job you're doing currently and become the first Framestore digital employee, and look at ways that a big visual effects company that makes films and commercials could do non-traditional things and digital things. And then obviously that back then meant banner ads and web work and Flash. So that's where it all started. All of a sudden, all the kind of guerrilla sensibilities of doing fun, sort of mashup-y type irreverent stuff. Suddenly, I had the tools to do it within Flash, and real-time rendering reared its head for the first time. And then, to be honest, that first couple of years doing Flash experiments and banner ads all got quite boring quite quickly, because you're working at a company that can produce massively high quality assets at high frame rates, and I'm making banner ads that are 3 frames per second and like 100 kilobytes in total, and that was kind of soul destroying. So probably 2005, this point, 2006, I was just desperate to be doing better quality stuff. And that's when we just had an idea to, well, why don't we just talk to the games industry? So I started doing presentations, and then started making cinematics and video content for people like EA and Activision. And then one fateful career-defining day, turning up at one studio in the UK for something completely unrelated to what ended up happening, but just seeing the way a game studio was set up compared to a visual effects studio, and realizing that everything's exactly the same, your modelers, your TDs, your animators, your riggers, it's all very similar, even though some of the tools are different. But there was a guy at the end of the table who was the engine programmer, and I was looking on his monitor at how he was getting characters and assets to render in real time, and it just blew my mind. And this one kid said this like apocryphal sentence to me that kind of stopped me in my tracks and changed everything from that point, when he said, games only look bad because you have to fit 60 hours of gameplay on a disc. And that kind of blew my mind, because I was just always thinking that game renderers must be terrible and the ads are great. And I suddenly realized that their game renderer was actually pretty amazing and could look really good, but they weren't allowed to really use it to its full strength, because they have to fit so much onto a disc to sell a game. So I then said to that guy, well, can we take your engine back to Framestore and play with it? And he sort of laughed me out the room, saying, well, no, every game studio's pride and joy, crown jewels is its engine. Don't be so ridiculous. But having said that, there is a company down the road from us, literally 5 doors down. Go and knock at their door. We know that they license their engine out to a car production plant. We're like, okay, let's do that. So we walk down the road, introduce ourselves as Oscar-winning visual effects studio, looking at disbelief by this people at this little game studio. And then, long story short, within 6 months, we'd taken their engine. And then the really uphill task of trying to find a team within Framestore that didn't treat us like complete jokers, that we could start putting that in as a pipeline inside Framestore itself, which we started to do around 2008 probably, which is why some of those clips that you can show of us puppeteering things like the Geico Gecko or walking around in mocap stages were all these sort of weird early tests of us trying to get a really good look out of an independent games company's game engine.
Yeah, and those look great. I think we could even go a little bit before that. The project that you worked on with Chris Morris, I think that is one of the first ones we can show.
Oh my God, yeah, okay. Well, this was the beginnings of, again, this is more sort of luck and timing, in that Chris Morris was and still is one of my heroes, but was at the time editing stuff at Framestore anyway. So we kind of befriended him a bit before he was even aware that we were doing all this stuff out of hours, and he really loved what we were doing out of hours and knew of us, and said he had this idea for George Bush's State of the Union speech, and that's where we got quite a bit of infamy from.
Well, I remember seeing this online too, back pre-YouTube. Was this around the same time he was doing Nathan Barley?
It was when he was in doing that, I think. Yeah. Whatever year that was.
I think it was like 2004, 2005, something like that.
Yeah, no, this would have been before. We could probably work it out from the actual Bush.
Yeah, that's true. We could just there's a timestamp on that. So yeah, maybe here. Let me see if I can cue that up. I remember watching this in the editing suite of my college, which is watching it on repeat because we had never seen anything like it, and just laughing. Just be like, hey, let's play that again when we would take breaks.
I think a lot of mashup videos at the time were making Cold Cut were doing it with Hexstatic. Like they were making soft, but it was all like choppy editing and like fast cut stuff, which we'd done a bit of as well, but we got quite bored of that. We liked the idea of really making it look like he was saying things that he wasn't really saying, like what deep fake is now, we could try and do with audio edits 20 years ago, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty much like deep faking audio. Here, so
Mr. Speaker, Vice President Cheney, members of Congress, distinguished citizens and fellow citizens. Every year, by law and by custom, we meet here to threaten the world. The American flag stands for corporate scandals, recession, stock market declines, blackmail, terror, burning with hot irons, dripping acid on the skin, mutilation with electric drills, cutting out tongues, and rape.
So I think it's a bit dark of a way to start there.
We cut to Nancy Pelosi here.
Yeah, well, you get the idea.
First
I mean,
goal
those
is
are
to
the
show-
sort of things now, of course, that someone can knock out on Twitter in 10 minutes the day after they happened. But back
On
then
their
required
iPhone,
$1 million worth of edit kit and everything else that we were managing to sneak into after hours edit suites to try and put together. Everything was so much harder back then.
Yeah, that was pretty influential, I think, for a lot of people. Sort of seeing what was, that was also when mashups were not just big from the video side, but you're saying like with Cold Cut and like Z Trip and a lot of people doing all different types of mashups with music, records, the whole nine.
Mr. Speaker,
Here we go. Let's see if
Vice President Cheney.
I want to do that again. Here we go. So then, with Framestore. So specifically Framestore.
I don't think there's any audio. You can just play that. I mean, that's just as simple
There actually
as.
is audio.
All right, I'm rolling.
This
is built in the
talking
engine of that independent games company. So this is literally Xbox controller, a PC, and the Geico Gecko. But the test was, can we make the Gecko look as good as he does on TV with texture and lighting and get the model right? And then can we build a rig that sits on a gaming rig that physiologically does a decent enough job of replicating how the Geico Gecko moves in rendered world? And then the final thing, which was a stroke of genius in the end, was just that the games company just so happened to have made a karaoke game completely unrelated. So it had like real-time voice puppeteering, sort of working on rough blend-shaped mouths. So luckily for us, the rig that powers the Gecko's mouth is quite simple. So we could actually get real-time mouth lip sync in as well, which was like a really great thing, particularly for me doing it out here in the States, because obviously I can put on a bit of a London accent and sound just like just raise my voice a little bit and I sound like the Gecko. It's all quite. We did a lot of stuff with that, but this was the real kind of penny drop moment of just like, you know what, we can make these things look as good as rendered TV quality. At this point, I think Framestore had made their 70th Geico commercial with the Gecko in it, and then with the client and say, look, the amount of freedom you've got now to do live events, he can go on air. The Chelsea Clinton had a chat show, and we got Jake, the voiceover artist, over to do it, and we did literally like what we're doing here now. We did a live TV interview with Chelsea Clinton and the Gecko, which I don't remember getting a whole lot of coverage back then, but was quite exciting for us because we could see what would become experiential possibilities down the way. But that demo was amazing in terms of giving us a leg up to be sort of in front of credible clients with decent budgets, as opposed to sort of scratching around doing little cool experiments. Suddenly we were a team that were doing big household name stuff and to a really high quality as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super cool. And then you were sort of taking this for you did some like the polar bears as well.
All right,
Yeah, so this test was seen by the agency that looks after Coca-Cola. So yeah, we puppeteered the Coke polar bears live on Super Bowl night for 4 hours as if they were watching the game, and actually could puppeteer them reacting to things that were actually happening in the game. And like that was back when obviously Adland is nothing but buzzword central. So the buzzword of second screen and second screen experiences was a big deal in 2010, 2011. And so the idea that you'd actually have your computer open and Coke.com in the browser and then you watch the Bears watch the game was pretty amazing, to be honest. We had a lot of fun with that. And it's that kind of the fear and the dread and the excitement that comes with doing live work anyway. It's the biggest night of advertising on the planet. It's one of the biggest brands on the planet. It's the most recognizable brand icon characters of the last 10 years. Like, no pressure, can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Big deal. Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. And again, just in terms of sort of credibility step up, all of a sudden, which is important when you're trying to do different groundbreaking work, you need peer support. So when they see that you're working with big brands and decent budgets, then they're willing to cut you more slack, and then you can do more experiments, and the team grows. And by this point, so these Beats Pills characters, this is Beats by Dre. We built these characters.
Action.
So we can actually hear your audio, which is
going to
hilarious.
sound good. I'm nice and loud.
Good.
Tested the levels.
Yeah, this is me just checking it, doing a little dance. You can see his mouth pulsing beautifully.
But
this was our first big switch to Unity, because suddenly there was this thing called Unity that was a game engine that you could rent, like people in Games World do. Just like, wow, can you imagine? Like, the thought of life without Unity or Unreal now seems bizarre, but believe me, there was a big life before their existence for us. So I mean, this was pretty amazing that we could port everything to Unity and then have our developers like, oh my god, it's so easy to use, and then suddenly hitting a brick wall, we're like, well, it's very easy to use, but it's not really open. You can't write a lot of stuff for it. And that sort of progression of renting a games company's engine and not being able to do anything with it, to suddenly, we can use Unity and write a bit of code for it, to suddenly, we can use Unreal Engine when that license deal changed in like 2013, 2014. All of a sudden, we can write C++ for it. All of a sudden, you're like getting in developers and writing your own shaders, and everything's getting way more exciting. But that was I've just raced through that in 20 seconds, but that was like 5 years of my life going through those kind of steps to get to where we were. This is a fun clip as well. So this is our first, as far as we were aware, I mean, there weren't many motion capture studios in the UK, and Framestore had one, and the guy that ran it was great, and I loved him, and he loved that we were messing around. We were making a kind of Pixar animation series for McLaren sports cars at the time, and just used that as our sort of dummy test. And we managed to plug Unity into the mocap studio, and this is, God, I can't remember like dates. We're probably 2012 again, perhaps 2011 even. This is us in the mocap studio messing around with Unity in real time, and pretty much blowing our own minds. That I remember one time where a team of animators that worked on the show came up to see what we were doing, and were both kind of horrified and aghast and angry and elated, and all the emotions of knowing what it takes to hand animate a walk cycle or to do all the things that they take such care of. And there's me like doing the Macarena like in real time right there and then. And that, there are obviously some terrible rig issues with ankles and wrists and stuff, like you can see with even my floppy wrists today. It's like there are lots of oddities, but in terms of being able to kind of rough stuff out, I think this was a pretty pivotal moment at Framestore, to be honest, and not just for us on the digital side, just for all the ways in which they could start to use real time for previs and mocking up shots and just approaching rendered stuff differently. But we were amazed how great this looked straight out of the box. It was really quite a thrilling couple of days messing about with this.
And I think another thing that's interesting to mention too is the capture volume that you have here.
It's tiny. London's expensive, Winslow. London real estate. You can't afford much.
This is in Soho, right?
It is, yeah, right in the middle as well, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, that's that stage was using up at least 20 seats for artists. So yeah, it's like that's a expensive bit of real estate.
And
look at that casual pose. Look at that, amazing.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, for us, this seems super. We can do this with phones and using stuff like radical motion.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's bananas to me that every kind of any old Snapchat filter now is doing stuff that used to be just so expensive, cumbersome, and difficult only 10 years ago.
Yeah. And you also said, I mean, yeah, it's totally mind-boggling. But this is also the same capture stage. If we can scrub through, you can see just, how, like, the size of it. But, like, you said that also that this was the same stage that they were using for a lot of, like, major motion pictures too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, we by this point, Framestore was a very big company. There's probably 1,000 people by this point, and it was impossible to know all the people there. So I made it my mission to befriend some people in software tools because they wrote amazing code, and we would need them. And then obviously the mocap team. But I mean, secrecy was so tight as well that they could have been working on a film for 3 years, and nobody outside of that department would even know it was happening. But yeah, a lot of big feature film stuff. particularly Harry Potter's, I think, were being made on that stage. Speaking
Perfect
of which,
timing.
look at that.
Yeah.
So again, another early test. We discovered this thing called phase shift quite early, and this was sort of realizing that we could read faces. And again, it's amazing how far these little kind of demo clips would take us. That when we realized that we could do stuff like this, it's useful for directors and film production teams to work out how to make the best characters, but for us on the commercial side, it's amazing set of demos to take around to clients to say, you could do this is possible, you could do this. I mean, I've got I probably sent you a bunch, but I've probably got 100 old demo clips of weird prototypes or tests or things that we figured were really exciting. Obviously you can never really second guess what a client might want you to do, but you can certainly hassle them continually with demos and videos and say, you could do this, you could try this works with this, you could make this do this. I mean, we love to be on the front foot and be a bit proactive about trying to get clients to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they need to see it to believe it. You could
Totally.
tell them, but as soon as they see that one thing, or they hear about it in somebody's an influencer
Right.
social media post, or it's pretty buzz dependent oftentimes. But what's crazy is that I think Apple bought this company, right, and then they shelved it. Because
Yes.
it's such hot tech, and they wanted to be able to. They've already been unveiling it for, similar technology to what I'm using right now, if not some of the same code in the iOS device.
Yeah, we can all send each other those amazing little animal messages now, can't we, on iPhone? So I guess it's the same team that eventually turned into.
Yeah, and who knows what it'll be like in for 2022,
right?
With their devices, which may or may not be unveiled at that point. Here we go. So as far as moving forward too, this is probably at least for me working in VR at the time, or witnessing it, just getting started, sort of seeing that there's this incredibly high watermark. A new standard for VR was created, even though I think this was just the DK1. This is the Game of Thrones, and I can play it with the audio too.
You can. I mean, yes. I mean, we had a fortunate head start in the. One thing that had happened was that I'd moved to America by this point. The real-time team was really good and sharp, and we were doing lots of real-time work. And then Kinect happened, and the Kinect cameras were a thing, and that we could do rough tracking really easily without big expensive mocap. So already we were quite used to plugging in little plastic peripherals and strange SDKs into Unity and making client stuff for them. So we did a bunch of Kinect-based client experiences, which kept us sharp. And then my lead dev sent me a video of Palmer Luckey doing his Kickstarter video, and we immediately knew that was absolute gold dust for us. So did what we could, and which was phone up Oculus and say, hey, we're Oscar-winning visual effects studio. Can we get some headsets, please? When there was about 15 people at Oculus, and we got a headset and had this ridiculous advantage of having already made at least 20 real-time things that we could just plug into and then explore with a headset on. So when it came to doing those same kind of client demos, all of a sudden it's here's put the headset on and here you are in the thing that you paid us for last year. But in all of this sort of demo circuit that we did, we showed it to a couple of guys who were the agency for HBO, and it just blew their minds what we could do. And they said, we can do this for Game of Thrones. And we were like, that would be absolutely ridiculous. We can't do that. And then we did. We got sign off by HBO, and then we made this Ascend the Wall experience. And that because we were so wet behind the ears, there were no rules in VR at this point.
No,
Oculus
totally.
was saying, we don't want to give you headsets if you stand up. We only want sit-down experiences. And we're like, but Jon Snow doesn't sit down in the elevator. It's there was a bit of a push and pull, but they were great, and they got us 50 headsets for it, and we built 5 elevators, and the fabrication team was amazing, and then we had wind fans and rumbling floors, and literally making it up as we were going along. No one had done anything like this. It was the first branded piece of VR that existed, I think, and this still predated Facebook buying Oculus, and this was all this videos captured from South by Southwest, where we went live with it the first time, and I don't think that was an absolute rocket for my team's career, to be honest. Everything changed from this point. The amount of coverage, the amount of awards, it was literally everywhere, and we really dined out on it. We had so much fun with it because it was exhilarating, great use of the tech, great fun for people to do, amazing reactions of people coming out having done it. You're playing around in one of the most famous IP story worlds in existence. So I mean, the head start of that as well. I mean, everything about it was amazing. And then just great little real-time anecdotes throughout that whole thing, to be honest, because we were literally making it up as we went and like finding things. Well, that'd be cool. Let's try and do that, to the point of almost farcical point where on the night that we launched at South by Southwest, Palmer Luckey came down to see it because he hadn't seen it yet with the elevators. Came down, put the headset on, did it, came out and was like, something really wrong, and came round and like opened up settings in our graphics cards that we didn't even know existed.
Oh wow!
And then literally saved us like 20 frames per second in the frame rate, and like was just sort of moving around in the graphics card, and even like to the shame of our developers who were looking on, going, "What's he doing? What's he doing in there?" But yeah, so it was like a real sort of the good old days fun time of everyone knew it was exciting and groundbreaking, and no one really could pretend, even though we were all po-faced in our BBC interviews proclaiming it to be the future of storytelling, and not laughing and pretending like, oh yeah, we're experts, yeah, we can do this, that. We didn't know what we were doing, no one knew what they were doing, but the attention was crazy, and then we just dined out on it. We probably made 20 VR experiences in the next 3 years. I mean, everyone wanted a piece at that point, so we, as tends to happen in advertising, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. I like to think of it as a good thing because the speed at which you need to stay fresh makes you stay fresh. So this sort of terrible advertising way of feasting on something and then just casting it aside obviously happens with everything. It certainly happened with VR, but we like to try and surf those waves because that's where you just keep fresh and alive and have fun. But certainly at this point, the original version of this was made in Unity, and as we were halfway through it, we did like a demo version to present to HBO, and literally halfway through this project, Unreal Engine suddenly offered monthly licenses per seat and suddenly offered up the same thing that Unity was doing. And then I didn't really know too much about it, but my lead developer was just like, oh my God, if we rebuilt this in Unreal Engine, you won't believe how good it's going to look. And then we never looked back. I don't think from that point on, I don't remember us using, apart from mobile related stuff, I don't ever remember us using Unity again. From that point, it was deep into UE4.
Yeah. I think for the Merrill project, it might have been like just the prototyping phase. I think it started as that, and then it also it was switched over. But
right.
I'm really curious too because that's pretty incredible seeing you. Yeah.
Shame my finger. We can't. Someone needs to render me a can of.
We don't want to smash the TV though. That's a collector's item.
Yeah, very good.
But I wonder too, because everything moves so fast, as what you're saying with the project, and you kind of were flying by the seat of your pants. Your whole team was, it's like, where will there be a museum to show like sort of all like the classic VR experiences, and how will they be experienced? Should they be experienced in the original technology, or you can up-res everything now? Does it make it look better? It's like a interesting question because we haven't even really thought about this because it seems like it was just yesterday, but in reality that was like 7 years ago.
Right. It's a tragedy, to be honest. I mean, that's like half of my life's work will never be seen again. All I've got are these, and as someone that makes 5, 6, 7 case study videos a year, you can't really rely on a case study show and tell film because it can make anything look amazing. It's not really a true version of events. But yeah, it's very sad. I mean, there is the guys at Relevant, the agency, still have an elevator with a DK1. It might be an HD prototype actually, and an original the Oculus SDK. And like, obviously you can't, as that thing, we're like living in fear of that ever finding an internet connection and some kind of update happening to anything, because one auto update would never work again, and that's it. It's like, that's a really kind of sad thing about this. So yeah, that whole period of stuff, apart from the mobile stuff and the video stuff, obviously 360 video, but the early engine stuff, yeah, it's very sad to me that it's kind of gone forever. I don't really see how who knows, some bright kids in the future might find a way to kind of do a Wayback Machine of Oculus runtimes from histories. God, who knows? That's not impossible, right? But
Yeah.
I can't see it happening, to be honest.
It's pretty interesting to think about. Like Paul Allen's like computer museum, you know, I think there'll be somebody. Maybe it'll be Palmer Luckey himself when he's not spending all of his time and resources with military drones. That's for a whole nother real-time discussion. How's that headset treating you?
Oh yeah, the headset's all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, actually having this thing on my head isn't dissimilar to having a blue television on my shoulders. I don't think so. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good.
That's fantastic.
What's next?
Okay,
It's hot in the background, look.
here we go. So, we've already seen this one.
We've seen Thrones.
Taking you from Westeros to.
Yeah, perhaps we let's skip through that. That's a Marvel Avengers thing.
Yep.
More VR. Yeah, keep going. That's into you can skip that one as well. This is just all the case study films for a whole bunch of
It's like
onslaught
Interstellar.
VR.
I remember seeing this when I visited you in the office when we were working on the Merrill project.
Yeah, we were very proud about how this one ended up looking. It was the guy that ran non-gaming content at Oculus told us it was rubbish and boring, and we were like, well, we don't think so, and that got quite fractious. But the film company thought it looked amazing, and then because Christopher Nolan was too busy to come to our office, we had to take the entire rig up to his house and set it up in his living room, and then beam in via Skype. And then luckily for me, as I was explaining to Mr. Nolan what we'd done with his film in VR, he had his two teenage boys there at the same time and made the 12-year-old and the 13-year-old do the experience first before he did. And of course, the kids were coming out of it going, "Oh my God, Dad, that's the most amazing thing. That's the most amazing thing." It was like, that's going to help with the feedback, I swear.
Yeah, definitely.
He's going to be nice in front of his kids, right? And then, he did it. And he paid us the greatest compliment where he actually said, "That's amazing. That's literally like being back on set," which was kind of what we were aiming for, I think, really. But I think at that point I was a very pretty early non-believer in the ability to tell a story in a VR headset. I'm still not a firm believer that you can tell a story in a VR headset, but I love the visceral punch of feeling, giving your body that sense of you're somewhere where you're not. So the experience like that was just like, well, I don't want to try and push too much story on someone in just a 4-minute experience. Can I give them the feeling of weightlessness? Can we actually make them feel like that for 5 minutes they're an astronaut and they're going to float and they're going to get to explore this amazing shit, which I still feel like the real power of VR is just that sudden sense of losing yourself in something.
Yeah, totally. And
what's next?
And especially with that too, we can play. Let me see if I can get the audio for this because I want to hear.
Yeah, we can talk about this one. I mean, this is where I met you, Winslow.
Exactly.
The good old Capra that you're wearing today. Look, sadly, I can't wear shoes. Look, today my ankles are a bit broken. Oh no, they're working quite good now.
You got some nice kicks there.
My
there are no Merrills, but yeah.
I'm gonna can my way through this case study film.
Oh, perfect.
Or perhaps a bit of keep you uppy as well. If
so that's Pauly Shore too, and he
took
a bunch of.
This was I just kicked my drink over. This was there's me. Look at that. That's very meta. Me in the metaverse, watching me on film in the metaverse, on a screen in a studio, in a mocap studio, not in the metaverse. Wow. So yeah, we because of the test, going back to that video we showed of Unity in the mocap studio, we were like, well, Unreal Engine in the mocap studio and Unreal Engine in the mocap studio with a VR headset, and then we'll disable we'll disable certain movements but keep global positioning from the mocap, but everything else from the headset. And it worked so amazingly that first time. I mean, talk about a religious experience. I mean, that was, we built a holodeck. You could put a headset on and you could walk around, and every single person we showed it to lost their minds, because obviously this was a significant step up to anything we'd seen before, except for those lucky people who managed to sign that NDA and go to the secret Oculus room in their first office, which we did, which was, again, a small room to walk around, but not at the scale of a proper mocap setup like this. And then same thing again, just did the demo, showed it to a bunch of clients, one of which was who you were working for, and they were the first to bite, really, and that's often the case. Like, here's an epic test. Are you going to be the first to bite? And we built the Italian Dolomites in a warehouse in Greenpoint as a testing, and
very cold
managed
one, but
a very cold one, as the Dolomites probably are when you're at 10,000 feet, I suppose. But built out this thing, and then obviously there's a word, isn't there? Proprioception, is that the word? That physical sense of reaching out and touching and feeling that being there. So we actually made the rope bridge. We made the slats in the wood of the bridge, and the one that was missing that dropped 20,000 feet, you could feel that gap with your feet. It was amazing experience, and take it to Sundance as well, and kind of not really be anything to do with the Sundance Festival, but piggyback it by turning up at Sundance with a branded VR experience was quite renegade anyway. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I honestly thought that after this, we'd get a lot more requests for walk around VR stuff, but that just goes to show you what happens with commercial world, is that somebody did it, won a bunch of awards, what's next? And I think the void were happening. The void were just starting to happen after this happened. And again, I'm just like, I could see an amazing future in this kind of thing. It was just sad we didn't get to make a whole lot more of it, but then I did, when I quit Framestore, I did a startup for a couple of years with the team that I'd worked on that Game of Thrones project with, which was nothing but big walk around, immersive VR things. Oh, look at that, as if by magic, here's the startup.
Perfect. I'm not in control here.
This is in the background, I'm conscious of time because I'd love to get a couple more things in, but
I can scrub through this if you like.
Yeah, we built an immersive theater experience in Samsung's basement in New York where there were actors, and a professor had managed to capture human dreams and replay them through VR headsets. So we literally pretty much photoreal, amazing work. I went back to Framestore to get the work done because they're just the best. And we recreated the Titanic sinking in VR. And we actually got and built a hydraulic lifeboat, life-size replica of the original Titanic lifeboats, and then took all of the wave data that came out of the animation and then actually matched that to the hydraulic rig, which again, with a VR headset on, we're used to kind of walking around, but floating over the waves in a real boat as you're sat in a boat and feeling it move is just like an amazing thing. And we had a lot of fun with that. And the other great thing about that we learned as well from previous experiences was that VR's better when you're social. It's like, so 6 people could do this at once. There were 8 seats on the boat, 8 headsets, but for the theater side of it, we thought 6 was best, and then we could get groups of 6 through in 20-minute experiences. And that was great. That was I'd love to go back and do more of that stuff. That's so much fun to do. That's kind of short, visceral, exciting, freaky theme park style immersion is just exciting. But by this point, I have to say I'm slightly bored of VR, but and can see so many other things to do with real time, and not wanting to sort of stay still. I decided to join Missing Pieces, which is probably the best decision I ever made.
And here we can go through. And what year was that?
2017.
Okay, yeah.
And again, so it's still real time. And the funny thing about real time as a kind of concept, I guess, was that all of a sudden it wasn't just about game engine and VR type experiences. Like, real time can now pretty much apply to anything because the phones in your pocket were rendering such quality and speed. All of a sudden, there's just endless amounts of things you could do, and obviously the sensibilities of filmmaking, and you have these kind of moments in a VR headset arriving and then the world kind of following. It sort of happened, I think, a little bit with Bandersnatch as well. Like, Bandersnatch was a moment for a lot of filmmakers, even though there's been a lot of interactive video out there for a long time. I just think somebody taking it up a notch and doing it to a massive audience was very inspiring, and that we'd worked a lot with Echo and had already rebooted war games, the missing pieces, into an interactive video, and just all the things that we learned about user experience. I think here's the really interesting thing about modern real-time work is that you've got absolute Jedis working online in how people use websites. I mean, UX is so critical to everything, and then in VR and real-time stuff, UX is critical to everything. But you start bringing that to literally every other aspect of entertainment. If you bring kind of real-time UX responsiveness into filmmaking, then it gets very exciting. And this Tinder project, which was only last year, something we're really proud of, that we could actually do that thing that I think what Missing Pieces has afforded me to do that I would never be able to have done at Framestore is be really quite culturally relevant, in that I can work with amazing young directors and partner with them. And the idea of Swipe Night, this Tinder project, was that everyone associates the swipe on Tinder as kind of the way to operate and live your life. But we were wondering whether or not we could do a real-time Bandersnatch, in that you can't watch it again. It's play once and destroy. What if at 6 p.m. on a Sunday night, something arrives in your app, and then you have to play along and swipe left or right as you go through the Navigate this experience to take your journey through it. But by the end of this experience, we learn a lot about you, Winslow, because did you choose to save the puppy, or did you choose to save the woman? Did you decide to go to the party, or did you decide to go home? Come the end of it, all of a sudden we're feeding Tinder's algorithm with stuff that's a lot more truthful about you than it ever would have been. Than it ever would have been if it left to the user to enter it themselves. And then at the end of that, we could provide you with a match based on the decisions you made. But obviously, the actual content itself, and again, this is where real time really kicks in again, is that the world is now used to seeing everything through 916. Like a 916 video is the what's happened to my head? Have I fallen asleep?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
This is turning into a John Carpenter movie pretty fast here.
In the game.
You're back.
Back in the game.
You were like the Thing pretty soon. Your head was about to crawl off.
Falling asleep. This Winslow
body.
guy is just boring me. I'm just going to have a snooze whilst I'm rambling on about Tinder. But everyone now lives their life in 916 through their camera live. That's that, and there's rules that you associate with that. The look of 916 is very different to watching anything else. And could we make it feel like your camera was jammed live open and you actually were in this place that we'd set up for you, and then make it play out in real time? So it's applying real time to filmmaking is equally as difficult as trying to work out good UX in a game engine, in that everything visual is different, all the behaviors are different. I mean that we're really proud of that, and there would have been a season 2 as well if it wasn't for the pandemic. This is another real-time thing. We won an Emmy Award for this. Very proud of this one. This is an amazing experience. Why don't you play the video, actually, rather than me just talk all the time?
Okay. Trying to get see if I can get the audio, too, if I just need to minimize it. Here we go. The audio's, like, hidden. Oh, we're exposing all the wires here. Here we go. Some of this.
I mean, perhaps shall I talk then? Let me talk if you can't hear it. Or can you hear it?
Let me see if... Oh, there we go. Okay, it was just that there was this... Okay, never mind. I got it right here. Boom. Okay. So you won't be able to hear it, Mike? But
for the first time,
being played.
Truth wanted to speak about a devastating addiction. Opioids. To help young people realize that opioid addiction can happen to anyone, Truth wanted the world to experience a real, live opioid detox. We introduce Treatment Box.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
Finding the right way to portray Rebecca's treatment through withdrawal was our main challenge. We decided to create an optical illusion that placed her struggle seamlessly into a public space. To do it, we needed to pull off a pretty unprecedented technical trick. As we filmed her withdrawal in advance, her room was outfitted with 2 green screen walls, which were then keyed out and replaced with a live image of the street on each side of the physical box in New York. This created the illusion that Rebecca herself was detoxing before viewers' eyes in public. To film her responsibly, we had to build a private treatment facility from the ground up and a camera system that would be able to record 24/7. Every specification was mathematically planned to the millimeter, with extreme accurate lighting considerations to scale 100% accuracy with the final glass box design.
Okay, you can probably
I
stop
know
it
that these
there,
next few days
Winslow,
aren't
if you
going
like.
to be pretty, and I'm the most camera shy person in the world. But if making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
So yeah, again, real time. I mean, the challenge here, it's an amazing challenge for a client. This one was that Truth had literally run out of ways to try and tell America that Vicodin is heroin. That 1 in 3 people in America taking an opiate don't realize that what it is that they're actually taking, and that they've run out of ways to shock people into realizing that. And the idea from the agency was, can we make someone go through the first 5 days of an opioid detox in a glass box in the middle of New York? And obviously, realistically, no, you can't actually do that. But could we get close to doing that? And so we built our own detox facility in Beverly Hills. We had to build our own because I had to make that glass box look like it was a glass box. And the only way to do that would be to shoot the person going through those detox days in such a perfect angle that we could then play it back on 2 screens on our box, but real-time green screen, key out the green walls in the background either side with live cameras on the street, which then created the optical illusion that you could look through that glass box. That Winslow, we could both turn up at the box. You stand one side, I stand the other, and we wave at each other and see through. But Rebecca, who was going through the detox, is obviously there on the bed, which for us was a hell of a thing to take on, because one, we needed to record 5 full days of footage in our home-built detox facility. Obviously, you can only imagine the legal and health and moral issues around building your own facility and what we needed to set up around that. And then obviously do the actual installation itself, which was, putting it in a busy street, making the optical illusion work, lighting it right, making sure the real-time green screen was going to work. I mean, It was a huge amount of effort, but again, it's this endless use of real-time as a thing. It's like it can change a project, and if it had just been playing back the video of someone going through a detox, it loses all of its impact. But people are just going to react to things more if they know it's happening there and then, and that's the same for walking around Castle Black in a VR headset. That's the same for climbing around the Dolomites in a pair of Merrell shoes. That's the same as swiping your way through a dating app as if the world's going to end, and then even seeing someone go through 5 days of a detox. I'll talk through this one rather than us play the film. But we did this for Stranger Things last year. We did a tie-in with Baskin Robbins ice cream, and this time the real-time aspect was, can we do real-time storytelling? Can we actually have a war room of writers and game designers, and then on the night that Stranger Things come out, can we make an ARG that lasts for 10 days where we use communities like Discord to drip feed story and plot line, and then get people to play along in our game? And the critical part of our game was that it had to work as if it was 1985. So obviously there was an internet in 1985, but there were no browsers. So we were literally using ASCII. We made people learn how to use terminal and command prompts on their PCs and Macs, and the entire game played out on terminal and command prompt, which gave us that lovely green and black sort of text-based adventure game. But the great juxtaposition for us was that we used a state-of-the-art chatbot as some of the characters from the show. So you have this amazing thing of, it feels like I'm in the 80s and I'm being made to go in stores and look at Morse code on flavor strips, but I'm being driven back to this weird command prompt on my machine to talk to a chatbot that's telling me to turn up here at 12 o'clock tomorrow. And I turn up at 12 o'clock tomorrow, and the chatbot says, "Hey, Winslow, you did well yesterday. Wow. You managed to get blah, 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 and blah." And that it's that same sensibility again. The tools have changed. There's no Unity, there's no Unreal, there's no VR headset. But again, the sensibility of learning how the public react to stuff as you feed it to them live, and knowing how to work for that. And again, our old friend user experience. It's some of these projects feel like kind of giant leaps between an execution, but they're really not. You learn so much with doing real-time stuff to sort of serve you well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. people can sense that too. I think
Yeah,
the
totally.
familiarity, it feels a lot more natural. And let me see. I think we might be closing things out on the slides.
I was going to say we're over time, surely. Oh yeah, you don't need to play that. That was the whole game started with a TV spot, which was quite amazing. Oh, look at that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And I mean, it wouldn't be complete without a big dance here. You're becoming one with our centerpiece here. But
The
that's just
occlusion
part
with
of
the
fun.
no, I'm coming out in front. I'm coming out in front. Am I?
There you go. Well,
Isn't this what would Madonna do if she was being interviewed by Jimmy Fallon right now? She'd tip the desk over.
she probably would. She might, get a little bit close to Jimmy Fallon too. But
I'm sad that you're not mocap now, Winslow. Really, you look really boring.
Well,
just sat
so
doing it.
Just to give a little bit of background too. So if I escape, you can see. I need to control with the mouse, so you can see a little bit of what's going on, and I can eject. Boom, and then you can see there's an audience that's been here the whole time. Look at that.
Hello,
They-
Brooklyn.
They love you, and I could just and then we could see what's going on.
Yeah, look at this.
Yep. We could delete this one guy too. Boom. We don't like him. Boom. He's gone. Sorry, Todd. I won't save that. But we can do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Again, if you wanted to, boom. If you want to get closer, if you want to have more of a dance space, you can do whatever you want.
I've not done a great job because the audience are very static. They're not asking any questions. There's no
They
vibe.
They will once I. Well, here. Let's see. Crowd. Oh, see. There
Oh,
we
right.
go. So we want to thank you, Mike. And with that too, I think we can open it up to questions. Let me just get this slide. See, this is all planned out, so I know it. Let me see if we can. Here, I'll go back
Bring it
to.
on.
I'm gonna possess, and I'm gonna go back to full screen, and that
Oh,
all
no.
worked too. That was pretty.
Yeah.
And they're still clapping too. In fact, they should probably. Boop. We're gonna eliminate them. So I guess we can open this up to questions.
It's very realistic for my bad back as well. Look at that. That posture is kind of.
It's like the end of Terminator when he hits him with the grenade launcher.
Broke again. I need to T-pose myself back to
So here,
fitness.
I'm
God,
gonna-
wouldn't it be amazing if I could? I'd be an amazing chiropractor. I could just say to people, T-pose.
Oh, totally. Here, let me see if there's any questions. I'm gonna go over to the feed over here.
Here's a question.
How do you? So somebody named Carrie asked, "How do you come up with these ideas?" Carrie, maybe you could.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's not. It's a myth that it's always us. It's not. It's like they're an amazing. Advertising gets a lot of grief when it's actually a great fun place to work because chances are you can get yourself big budgets to work on things that are groundbreaking. I've never left commercials for that exact reason, that you can be first to stuff, and because you're first to stuff and brands and agencies are relying on you to know what you're talking about, you can infect their ideas with a lot of your own, which gives you freedom. Whereas something like film or anything that's been around for 20 years where everyone's an expert, you get less of a chance to do that. So ideas just come out of doing stuff like this. Just never always stay open-minded to everything, try everything, experiment with everything. It's amazing how little freak serendipitous moments sort of happen when every one of those projects I showed there would have been a reason as to why when a client makes a request like, how do I shock people into realizing that they're taking heroin when they take Vicodin. It's amazing how that little nugget within 48 hours, you're talking about real-time green screen on the streets of New York. That process is kind of a magical process. Sometimes we get requests for proposals from clients that are totally baked. Sometimes it is, we want to do this, please do it, and we do. And sometimes clients come and say, show us what's good and what's new. And I think when you build up a rapport with people, they trust you. So if I send them, like, in the last few weeks, we've got voice synthesis, AI voice synthesis working so well, it freaks me out. I've got a clip of me singing Thriller by Michael Jackson when I've never sung that. That freaks me out. Obviously, NFTs, we are in advertising. If everyone's bored of them already, we're not. We're going to be doing tokenized blockchain related projects and blockchain content. There's going to be a lot of that. these, zeitgeisty things that feel exciting and dynamic, brands are always going to want to align themselves with. So sometimes they come in with a bit of brand strategy, which is like, my soft drink is being drunk by 18 to 24-year-olds in Canada, and that demographic live on TikTok and Clubhouse. What should we do? And then we take those kind of nuggets of strategy and then start to kind of work stuff up, much like, how we met Winslow, just to think of an example. It's like the agency's like, well, the Capra is named after an Italian goat, and we want to do a VR experience of what it's like to walk in these shoes. And we're like, well, funny you should say that, because we've just demoed a walk around holodeck VR. We can do this. What if we made the Dolomites in a 40 feet square foot space? And that's how it works, really. If we ever got bored of technology or trying out new things, then we wouldn't be doing good work, I don't think.
Those are all really good points. Thanks for sharing. And then we also have Sauceman the Great. I think I might know who that is asking. Let me just make sure I get the question specifically in their words. Why do you think VR can't tell impactful stories?
Because too much is required of you, and storytelling is passive. Whether you sat around a campfire or a pyramid 5,000 years ago, it just doesn't lend itself. I just want to explore. I don't need to. If I go and walk around a beautiful garden of a 17th century country house back in the 17th century, I like to just explore and get the experience and feel it, and my brain can wander, and I feel happy and content in going off my own steam. And story's different to that. There's an amazing blog post from the writer of the game BioShock in 2008 that coined the phrase ludonarrative dissonance, and I've always loved that. So ludo, game, narrative, story, and the dissonance between it, and that they always found it as game designers impossible to further story if you're running around with a gun, or if you're running around with a gun and decide to shoot 5 people that you shouldn't, and then are served a bit of cutscene making you out to be some kind of empath person. It breaks, doesn't it? It's never going to work.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
But I get into a lot of arguments about that. Yeah. And obviously, being a human, I change my mind all the time as well. I mean, people love to point out to me great story things in VR, and all I have to say is yeah, you're right. That's a good story, well told in VR, but 95% of the time, I don't think it works.
It's pretty challenging, especially when people get more familiar too. I feel like a lot of the sort of the novelty has worn off. So it's how do we take it to the next level? How do we make it so because people are going to be infinitely interesting. So I think how do we allow what is real? How do we have that crossover? How do we have that human connection to be able to make these stories more organic, so that it's not part of necessarily a scripted narrative, but how do people pull from themselves? Yeah, I mean, there's so many interesting things that I hope. I just bought, and I think my mom is still on the thread. Hi, Mom. Just waiting for that for the last hour. I just got her a Quest 2.
Amazing.
And so she's actually a painter. So I'm really curious to see what she will come up with when she does, 3D painting and 3D sculpting, and
fantastic.
And then how can people be able to create their own worlds and share them? That's it.
I mean, my kids now, my kids have if I give them the option between here's the new Pixar movie or here's Roblox, Adopt Me in Roblox is the biggest thing in my house. They are completely obsessed with Roblox, their avatars, seeing their friends, chatting to their friends, building their houses. The effort that my 2 girls have gone into in building their houses in Roblox is incredible. And yes, there's an element of, well, it was Legos for us and now it's Roblox for the new generation, but it's bigger than that, because they're turning down the opportunity to watch Star Wars films. Because they made their own narrative. They made up their own world. They're inhabiting something that's equally as fulfilling as just sitting back passively and being fed. And I think that's a really, because that's the other thing about working in advertising. You have to keep up with generational shifts as well. It's seeing seeing a generation of kids potentially start to push away from big animated movies is a wild thing to have imagined a few years ago, but it's happening in my house.
Yeah, and when they can be the characters and experiencing things from a first-person perspective and go
Right.
on adventures every week,
Exactly.
every day, it's gonna happen.
Yep.
It's just a question of who's gonna be the one to figure it out,
Right.
Or like, yeah, I don't know. But it's all gonna be in real time, baby.
It will. Planet
Yeah.
real time.
Planet real time. And on that note, I think again, I'm gonna go back and say thank you so much, Mike. Inspiring words from a very inspiring individual, human, if you will. Even though you're embodying another life form on planet real time, which yeah, I can only imagine what type of dance
Play
moves
the music.
you're pre-programmed with here.
Play the music. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Ready? So thank you, everyone. The problem is we're gonna zoom out, but we're gonna as soon as we do it. Ready? Here we go. Thank you, Mike, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Mike, you're still on mic. Thank you, everyone.
Picture your welts.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, John.
You're the first one who's ever watched the morning.